Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome to the Global Hypergrowth Strategies for Korean Startups session. My name is Jin, and it is my great honor and pleasure to be here as your MC today. The purpose of today's session is to discuss directions and detailed strategies for Korean startups to expand globally. We truly hope that today's session will serve as a meaningful platform for Korean startups to explore and seek opportunities for their future business expansion. First and foremost, we will be hearing from Mr. Gary Oliver, the president of startup Jinom, a leading research and advisory organization that focuses on accelerating the success of startup ecosystems globally. Then please greet him with a big round of applause. 네, 여러분 큰 박수로 게리 올리버님을 무대 위로 모셔보도록 하겠습니다.
Can you hear me okay? Great. It's a great honor to be here. It's been a wonderful visit so far. I just came from India, where we're also kicking off a significant program. We'll talk about our programming in a few minutes. But my name is Gary Oliver. I'm the president of Startup Jinom's Hypergrowth business, where we select scale-up companies, not startups, but scale-ups that have the opportunity to become category leaders in their space. We give them all the network and know-how to be successful in the marketplace. So who are we? Startup Jinom is the world's leading innovation policy advisor and hypergrowth program. You probably heard the mayor talk about how Seoul has now become number 9 on the innovation survey study, and that's research that Startup Jinom does. It's fantastic that Seoul's become in this position. We're going to talk about how Seoul can even be higher in the ranks, but most importantly, we're going to talk about what scale-up companies need to do to be successful to get to hypergrowth and to overseas markets. Just for some scale, we've advised over 170 organizations in 60 countries around the world. And here's just a bit of what the geography looks like in terms of the organizations we've helped with. I just came from Bangalore, India, where we are kicking off a significant program. We're in the process of picking the best 15 companies that are post-Series A in funding and are looking to expand. And we're also kicking off a program here in Seoul over the next 3 months to take a number of the top companies that are post-Series A and also help them give what they need to scale in their markets. So our mission overall at Startup Jinom is to accelerate growth of startup ecosystems so every city and country can capture their fair share of the new economy. You know, it used to be that there was only a few cities in the world that had this kind of innovation, and now you're starting to see organizations and cities really moving up, making the investments, building the communities, building the ecosystems to be successful. That's not just for the companies, it's for employment, it's for the economy, it's for building wealth for the citizens of the countries, and it's very, very exciting to be part of this journey. And we're very proud that of our clients on the advisory and services side, that our clients outperform cities that are not our clients. The ones that we advise, provide public policy for, those are the 170 projects we talked about. And for those clients, they actually grew 59% faster than their peers. So really how it works is we do advisory, we do services to help these governments figure out what their policy should be, how to build the ecosystem, how to bring in venture capital, how to build jobs, how to build technology, and then how to connect with the rest of the world. And then behind that, then Hypergrowth is the program that takes the top of the top and takes them to category leadership. So this is very exciting. As you saw, the mayor talked about this morning, Seoul has now come up to number 9, so in the top 10 in the world's ecosystems, which is fantastic. I think there's a lot of potential to go even further and be a top 5 ecosystem, and we'll talk a little about that. But it's a tremendous news, and you can see that if you look at the rankings over the years, in 2019, Seoul was ranked 53, and today it's number 9. So who wouldn't want to have that kind of a growth chart, whether you're a startup, a big company, or an ecosystem? So it's really fantastic. It's been great great success. One of the kind of maybe peer ecosystems to look at as it relates to Seoul would be Tel Aviv. And this kind of shows how Seoul compares to Tel Aviv on a number of key metrics. And I would tell you the punchline here is that the companies in Tel Aviv tend to be put together from the beginning, focused on the global markets. They may start in their home country, they may get product market fit in their home country, but it's all about getting ready to go global. And that's an area where we really want to help the Seoul environment take on, and a lot of the scale-up companies in the organization. So if you look at some of the kind of the key areas that were talked about this morning, there's some challenges for Seoul, but I think those challenges can be definitely overcome. So for example, converting deep tech R&D into tech business and manufacturing and robotics. As it relates to some of the competitors, or some of the other cities, I would say, Seoul still is not quite where Seoul would like to be, but there are mechanisms to get there. We'll talk some more about those. Same with artificial intelligence. I loved what I heard this morning in the keynote about the level of investments in AI. AI is changing the world, as you know. And I loved on the keynote speech this morning talking about vertical AI. So platform AI is one thing, but really solving business problems, leveraging AI, generative AI, and other techniques is really where it's at. That's where investment's at. That's where businesses are buying. Every boardroom and every major corporation is focused on how can we leverage this technology to change our business. And so there's so much opportunity, and I think the Seoul's got an opportunity to really move up from that perspective. Same is true with the life sciences. And one thing I would say is that from our past research, and you're going to hear a common theme here about global connectedness. From our past research, Seoul's scale-ups are a little bit too focused on the Korean market. So very successful companies, but very much focused on the domestic market. And so if companies can focus on starting the companies in the domestic market, getting product market fit, getting some investment, earning the right to go global, but thinking about that from the very beginning at the time the company is started, that really makes a massive difference. And this is where you can see that change compared to some of the other leaders in the space. So let's talk about some of our research. We're a very data-driven company. Everything we do is based upon data we collect from ecosystems, from startups, from investors. We have tremendous amounts of data points to go from. And this is a result of 11 years of primary research with close to 100,000 startups globally. So we don't like to guess on this. We like to take the data and really dive into the data and use that data to advise our clients and ultimately build systems like the Hypergrowth service around the data that we find. It's the first ever longitudinal study. Again, it's all about how do we get scale-ups to that 50 million to 1 billion in valuation. And as you can see, I don't know how well you can see this, but some of the global market reach, again, there's a common theme every time. Companies that go outside of their home country are much, much more successful. And startups, scale-ups that go outside of their home continent are even that much more successful. So again, starting the company with a global mindset, even though you may develop the product locally, get your first customers, get your first investment, you have to be thinking about going global. And that is the difference between the top ecosystems and the ones that are trying to come up the ranks. And again, taking that global first approach, right, as we talked about, that's the key to scaling. Another thing that we found is that companies, scale-up companies that have engaged advisors, the more advisors you have giving you their knowledge, they've taken the journey before, they know the speed bumps you're going to run into, the more that you can have advisors involved, the higher odds of success. There's a lot of smart people in the startup scale-up industry, a lot of amazing technical founders, but not everyone can know everything. And so we're so much about connecting to advisors who have taken the journey, who have seen the things that you're going to go through, can help you along the way. That is a very important takeaway from my talk today, is that if you're a scale-up, get advisors involved. The more advisors you can have involved, the higher your odds go up, as you can see here from the data. And that includes ESOPs. So, this is very typical in Silicon Valley, where I'm from, is that every startup scale-up creates an option pool for both their employees, so the employees have incentive to help grow and share in the outcome and the value as it's being created. But that's also true for advisors. So in all cases, we recommend establishing those stock options, giving a small little piece of the company to the advisors so they share in your risk and your reward. It's very, very important. So again, you're hearing kind of a common theme here, but most Korean startup executives lack the global scaling skills and global networks to go global. This isn't just about Seoul. We're doing a program today in Tokyo. It's a fantastic program. We have 21 scale-ups in the program, but there are some things that are similar between Seoul and, for example, Tokyo. There's obviously geographic differences. There's language barriers. There's cultural barriers. And what we're really about is to try to help these companies go from having great technical skills and products to getting to the global markets and giving them the know-how, the connections, the knowledge, the narrative, and the thought leadership to establish them into the markets that they wish to serve. So, I talked about we're a data-driven organization. We actually took this data and created an entire program around it called Hypergrowth, as I mentioned. And the Hypergrowth program really has 4 major pillars. The first is a peer-to-peer program where the founders of the scale-ups get together. We bring in senior experts from outside, and they work on common problems together as a team. The second is around mentorship. Every senior executive in the scale-up gets assigned a mentor who's been in their space, has been in their role, and has scaled companies to exit. So they're there as a buddy. They're there to be with them over the period of the cohort and really give them that mentoring. Sometimes startups are a lonely place, especially if you're the founder, right? And it's great to have someone that can take the journey with you over the period of the cohort. The mentorship also can be what I like to call just-in-time experts. So if you bump into a wall or there's a big opportunity or trying to figure out how to scale your infrastructure, it could be going to other geographies from a legal perspective. We attach mentors who have those specific skills to help these organizations through that journey. And then number 3 is so critical. This is global advisory panels from a sales and go-to-market perspective. We take your scale-up and find your customers in the United States, in the US marketplace, and they give you feedback. They give you tough love. They tell you, here's what it would take to position your product, to go to market. Here's your competitors. Here's the channels you should be thinking about. So you may have $5 million in the Korean marketplace, and you assume that you can automatically go to the US and be successful. This is the process of shrinking the time to get the feedback, to validate, and ultimately to craft that go-to-market strategy. So when you're ready to put your foot on the gas and start to expand, you've got a set of messaging, product value that's going to be successful in the marketplace. And the last, number 4, is thought leadership. One of the things that happens, as you probably know, when you go to a new market, is you walk in, you exchange your business card, and the first thing that the customer does is look you up on the web to see what you're all about. And in many cases, they've never heard of you, right? And so what we do in the thought leadership is we put the scale-ups in the conversation, in the market, with the leaders in that market. So we write articles, we do podcasts, we bring in prospective customers and do webinars. So we bring investors, we bring customers in, and it's not leads or a pitch day. It's literally having a conversation about what your company does, the business value and impact you can have on organizations with prospective customers. Really critical. So when you take the peer-to-peer, you take the mentorship, you take the go-to-market help and the global advisory panels and add in the thought leadership, that package is really what hypergrowth is all about. Typically, this is a 7 to 9 month cohort process, but once the companies in the program have gone on and exited, they're alumni, they're always part of our organization. They can always come back in and get access to excerpts as they go forward. So again, I kind of talked about this in some detail, but again, on global scaling mentorship, you can read here what's involved from a mentoring point of view. It's all about giving the know-how to go to that, to go to market. Same on the advisory panels. If you're, for example, focused on financial services or retail, we're going to put you in a conversation with 5 to 10 executives from the leading retailers or fintech companies in the United States. We have a network of hundreds of senior executives that are part of our program, and their job is to help you, to give you that feedback, and ultimately when they're comfortable, they start to open doors for you in the market with prospective customers that they know. So these are very warm, connected leads with someone who can vouch for what your company does. Very important. And again, the advisory panels from a go-to-market perspective. With that, I think that wraps up my remarks now, and I think we're going to transition to a quick panel discussion here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oliver, for the inspiring and insightful presentation. And yes, you may now return back to your seat. You've truly highlighted the critical role Genome plays in shaping startup ecosystems across the globe, and your emphasis on hypergrowth program is a powerful reminder of how crucial it is to build strong foundations for emerging companies as well. And we're truly excited to see how Genome will continue to influence and empower entrepreneurs worldwide. So thank you once again for the insightful presentation, and we will be ready, the stage will be ready for a panel discussion session in a moment. And as soon as the stage gets ready, I will be inviting our moderator and panelists up to the stage. So we will be ready in just a moment. Thank you very much for staying with us until then. And just a short reminder, once again, we are providing simultaneous interpretation service throughout today's session. So those of you who need the service, please use the receivers on your seats. And for those of you who are joining us at the back of the stage, you may refer to one of our staff members and they will guide you to get one of the interpretation receivers. Thank you very much. I believe the stage is now ready, so we will dive right into the panel discussion session. First, I'd like to invite Mr. Soo-Yong Park from Bluepointpapartners as our moderator today. Please give him a big round of applause. 네, 여러분 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. Thank you very much. And next, we also have Ms. Choo-Seon Kim, the program lead of Startup Genome. Thank you very much for your presence. Please greet her with a big round of applause as well. And lastly, I would like to have Mr. Gary Oliver, the president of Startup Genome, once again to the stage. Please greet him with a big round of applause again as well. Thank you very much. And now I will turn the floor to our moderator.
Hello, my name is Eric. I work for the venture capital in Korea called Bluepointpapartners. I'm very excited to be a moderator of today's session. I'm very glad to see you all today. Why don't we start with a quick intro of yourselves and just some easy questions about what you do and how you got joined to a startup Genome and something personal about yourself.
So again, I'm Gary Oliver. A little bit about my background. I started out in large companies, IBM for 11 years. Was part of their software business towards the end of that career. Then I went on to Visa, the credit card company you're probably familiar with, and I was what today we call a CIO, responsible for the internal company's IT, directions, products, etc. Then I did a mid-sized public company that we grew to 300 million and sold, exited. And then after that, I started doing startups. So the last 20 years, I've been doing startups as a CEO, board member, investor, etc. And one of the things that brought me to Startup Genome was, I'm sure you all know, big companies and scale-ups or startups don't necessarily swim in the same pond. And so taking that background and be able to bring these communities together so that large companies can find innovation from really innovative startups, and startups can understand and build the know-how to go in and go after large corporations and solve their problems. That's really what brought me to Startup Genome. And I was so overwhelmed with the relationship that Startup Genome had with these 170 organizations around the world, and to be able to bring the hypergrowth program to those clients was something I was very excited about.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to hear more about your insights later on. And how about you, Chuzin?
Hi, everyone. My name is Chuzin Kim. 안녕하세요. So I'm actually, as maybe you can tell from my name, I'm actually Korean heritage, but I grew up very multicultural. Part of it is Japan. That's where I lived the longest, and part of it is China. I also went to college in San Francisco, and that's how I was exposed to the world of Silicon Valley. And, for example, Facebook went to IPO when I was in college over there. So I was very much inspired as a student, and also with the high caliber network of people. And that's why, I grew my career in the tech space, working for multiple companies across multiple markets, in APAC as well as in the US. So, this multicultural background and also language and also just the work experience, it makes me very passionate in terms of connecting the people and different culture. And I think that when you do business, at the end of the day, it's really getting to know each other and really have that sense of connection regardless of the language that you speak. And I think that's the same for global expansion as well. So that's why I decided to be part of Startup Genome. I'm currently leading a Tokyo program called Global Hypergrowth Tokyo, and that's been running since March. It's it will run until next February. So we're very much in the middle of it. And as Gary mentioned in his presentation, 21 companies, mainly in the deep tech space, is part of the program. And also we also have a project with the Seoul government, with SBA this time, which I will support as well. So I'm very, very excited to be part of this, my cultural roots, and contribute to the economy of Korea and help bridging the gap. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, you spoke about connections, importance of connections. So I'd like to connect with the audience first. So if you guys have any questions, you're ready. You can feel free to raise your hands now, or I can keep going, ask questions until you guys are ready. Should I start? Keep going with my questions? Okay. We have a kind of quiet audience today, so just feel free to join in if you have any questions. And so my first question is that you guys have seen a lot of startups and global-ready startups. Do you see any common characteristics of global-ready startups?
Yeah, as I talked about in my remarks, the one characteristic that so many of these companies have is they were built for a global marketplace from the beginning. It doesn't mean that you can't build a company in your domestic market and eventually take it there, but there's so many things you think about in terms of product and process and fit that's beyond your home marketplace. And I think the common theme is that, plus the founders of these organizations are maniacal about reaching out and asking for help. Everyone who's gone through the startup journey has had successes, had failures. So many times you learn more from the failures than the successes. And that's a cultural thing that comes out of Silicon Valley, but I'm starting to see that in so many of the other ecosystems. It's so fantastic, where people share, this is what I'm afraid of, this is what I'm excited about, here's where I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get over this wall. And I think that leads you to reaching out and asking for advice, signing advisors, going to conferences, connecting with people outside of your comfort zone in many places. So important to do that. And that's one of the things that I would say. Those are a few things I say are common from the success stories that I've seen.
Wow. Yeah, this is very important to have to learning from the failure and being not afraid of being failure. So that's a very good point. Thank you. How about you, Chuda? You have seen a lot of startup from Tokyo, and you have probably you have seen a lot of similarities between Korean startups and Japanese startups, maybe.
Yes, so we're in the middle of the program. There are certain details I cannot disclose. However, I would say that one of the first common challenges that founders have is this cultural barrier. What I mean by that is it mainly comes with, for example, communication. How do you work with one another? Are you consensus-based decision-making process? Are you more used to top-down? Are you more used to indirect way of communicating, or are you more used to direct way of communicating? These are, if you think about it, it's a very simple thing, but many founders, because of their cultural origin, and often, for example, like U.S. is usually their top target when it comes to market, because of the sheer size of the market, and usually it's more direct. Usually it can be top-down as well, less consensus-based, and therefore more quick. Anyways, so it's important to pay attention to those. So those founders who can overcome and be observant, what are some of the communication skill that will work? I think that's very important. And the second of all is that I think they know how to sell themselves. You, as a founder, is a product. You have to sell yourself and make investors, make your local employees fall in love with you. That's how they're going to decide whether they're going to invest in you or not. I was talking to this amazing investor who was part of a $2 billion investment fund, and he said that, 80% of their return comes from the 18% of the companies that they invest in. So, it is a big bet if you think about it from an investor's perspective, right? So how they decided is actually very emotional. So it's really, of course, they have to fall in love with their product and their company. That that storyline has to be fully baked. But the final decision making is whether they like you or not. Yeah. So do you know how to sell yourself? Do you know what is your strength and what is it that other people don't have? So take a long time and think about it, and also do not be shy, just be yourself. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for your insights, and being always having an attitude of selling myself. It's really important, especially if you are pitching to venture capital, and if you're always if you're trying to raise money out of besides from your revenue, it was always important. It's for me as a venture capitalist, it's always better to communicate with those people who are ready to sell themselves. Hope that be a good insight from you. I got heads from you. Wow, thanks. Oh yeah, if you'd like to ask a question, you could. Is there a microphone for audience?
Hi, I'm Haley from All Rounders. I'm building a second-hand trading platform targeting Southeast Asian countries. But I have a question for you guys. When it comes to global startups, people think of main country, like main cities, for example, Silicon Valley, United States, Japan, or big countries. But my target is Southeast Asian countries, especially Thailand. Our entry country is Thailand. So sometimes I feel I'm in the middle of nowhere because there's no program supporting this country, because all the program is supporting American startups or Korean startups, Japanese startups. So do you have any program, trying to connect my company with Thai, countries or Thai people, or any program do you have in Genome?
Yeah, I would say that we do have a lot of connections around the world. Our network is around the world. Primarily the hypergrowth program at this point in time is focused on, companies that want to come to the largest market, which tends to be the US and in some cases, Europe. There are a lot of great companies we meet who say, listen, we're not interested in the US market right now. We think we could grow tremendously in Africa and Asia and other parts. In some cases, that's the right answer for them because they have a solution set that isn't as applicable to the U.S. So it's good for them to understand that up front, or that the barriers to entry in the U.S. are going to be so big that they can go get a lot of growth first in those other markets. Okay. So when I talk about kind of position yourself as a global company, it doesn't mean you have to go global necessarily from day one. In some cases, the right answer is to go get revenue, profitability, within the markets that are easiest to get to, but with an eye that says when we're ready, we want to move to, to other markets as well.
For me, I can see the market in Thailand. I can see like money in especially in Southeast Asian country, especially with secondhand, platform. But then the thing is, the procedures and program or subsidization, something like that, is quite difficult. So that's why I said I'm in the middle of nowhere. So everyone gets like support around the world or from the AC programs or venture capital. But for me, I have to find a way. I have to figure out everything. So for me, it's quite hard. So I wanted to get the support from Jinom. So that's why I asked you.
Yeah, and I'd love to, when we're done, connect information. Maybe we can help in some way.
Okay, thank you.
Connect you with people that might be able to help. Because regardless of where you're going, the whole notion of getting help, advisors, other people who have made the journey, that's all still relevant, right?
Thank you.
And I would just add to that is that usually the answer is yes, absolutely. We are able to help it. Why I say that is because, in Gary's presentation, you talked about this amazing mentorship network that we have. It's very global. Okay. So a lot of these people have, built their career very globally, and that means that even if, for example, that it might take a couple of connection of introduction, but it's very likely that there are some warm introduction, which is, you cannot buy that with, money. That's the most gold in any time, and that could potentially be helpful of you. And also, our Tokyo cohort, not everybody targets U.S. Some of them target Middle East. Some of them also target, for example, even India. So, of course, it depends on your segment. U.S. is not always the right answer for you, and that's completely understandable.
Yeah, Chusen, that's a great point. The mentoring side of what we do is about know-how, how to build companies, scale teams, get ready for scale. That's independent of geography. The go-to-market part, right, of how do I penetrate the U.S. market, the know-how, understanding competitors, positioning, value proposition in that market requires experts in that market. But the mentoring side, the know-how about building companies, to your point, is global. Right? Our particular program is focused on companies at this point in time that are looking to come from their current market into the U.S. marketplace. But again, let's connect up. We've got a lot of contacts. We may be able to help you out with some great resources.
Thank you.
And sorry, I just want to have one more point to add is that we are here for 2 days. As I mentioned earlier, we are launching this program in Seoul with SBA. So if you are interested, come talk to us, understand about the program. I think the application form is still ready, but we only have 3 spots, so it's very limited. But if you even have a little bit of ambition, please come talk to us while we're here. And we're also happy to connect you with SBA as well so that you can apply.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your question, and you had a very good attitude of selling yourselves. Thank you again. But just about the program, can you tell us more about your program? I think the audience are very interested in that program. When is it start, and what are we expecting to have all the 4 pillars of the programs that flow through this program?
Sorry, I couldn't.
Oh yeah, for the Seoul program, the duration of the program and stuff.
Sure. So this Seoul program is 3 months. So it's a bit shorter than the regular program that we would do. Usually, for example, for Tokyo program, we're doing it for 12 months, which is quite long. But if you think about it, from a company's growth perspective, you can do it does take a bit of time for you to refine your strategy and to connect you with the right people, whatnot. However, we will, just to be clear, we always will do our best. We always tailor the approach based on each of the startup, understand what it is that you really need. And in this SOUL program, we will couple you with a mentor for the company executives. Yeah, but first of all, we will try to understand what's your challenge, where are you trying to head it to, etc. And if we think that you are mature enough, obviously there's that possibility of us connecting you with further investors, whatnot as well. That's very much of a possibility, but it will depend on the maturity of the business, whatnot. And yes, I hope that answers your question. But in terms of the Tokyo program, just to kind of give you a broader idea, so we have a monthly peer-to-peer program where we will invite industry or segment experts, such as, we will invite someone who's an expert in growing organizations, like ex-COO of Skyscanner, for example, or, a HR executive that used to work in Apple, or even like a legal expert who understand all of the legals in sensitivities that you need to understand when you establish an entity, when you negotiate with your investors, whatnot. So those monthly sessions we do hold so that there's that learning possibility in addition to mentoring. And also we try to help promote the startup as well from a PR perspective, expose them to the investors. We actually are organizing this investor panel based on the different segment of the cohort of the Tokyo program, which is very exciting because oftentimes startups, one of their first goal is wanting to talk with the investors. So, we try to help them make sure that their storyline is very well baked. This is very, it needs to be fully baked. And we also try to support them, connect them with the right expert who can support them. So it's a very, very unique and very high quality program. Yeah.
Can you tell us some more about the qualifications of who can apply for this program, or if there is certain revenue they have to have, or?
Typically, the programs that we run, as I mentioned, hypergrowth is about taking the companies that are already having success and making them category leaders. One of the things that you'll find if you look at the research from Startup Genome, 90% of all the investment goes into early stage startups. But companies that are starting to do well tend not to be part of accelerator programs. They don't get as much love. And so what happens is in the B2C space, there's a lot of unicorns that happen. In the B2B space, there's quite fewer unicorns or companies that get to 100 million plus in revenue. Our particular program is focused on selecting companies that already have trajectory, they've already got success, they've got product market fit, they've got great customers that are using their product for the same way each time, and they're ready, they have a chance to be a global category leader. What we do then is we apply all the know-how, the network, the connections, everything they need to scale. So it's a very different kind of a program. But again, we've particularly crafted around that because what we found from the research that most of our clients, they want to have some category leaders that they can point to. Also, that helps to raise them up on the global ranking, right? To have more companies that reach that 100 million plus in B2B. And again, our program is only business to business. It's not business to consumer. It's only the B2B marketplace. Again, to the previous question, we could do other programs in other spaces. That just tends to be where we're focused today from a program perspective. And to Chusen's point on the SOUL program, it's a bit of a truncated program. It's kind of an initial pilot of 3 months. We're going to take three companies, and we're going to give them mentoring. We're going to give them, some commercialization help. We're going to help them with their value proposition. We're going to put them in front of people that would be customers to give them feedback on that in a very short period of time. So it's a little different than our traditional programs. For example, in India, we're taking 15 companies over a period of a year and going through a very specific set of cohort, activities through that period of time. It's harder to do in 3 months, but we can certainly get started and show what's possible with these companies.
Is there a cost incurring from the SOUL program?
There's no
cost.
There's no cost.
Oh, wow, okay.
at all to the scale-ups. So if you think you're one of those three, we want to hear about you. In fact, we're trying to finalize the cohort because we have a big event in Silicon Valley on October 23rd. We're bringing in cohorts from around the world, the investors from Silicon Valley, the program sponsors, and our network. And we're also doing a bunch of AI conversations. We're probably going to do some site visits to NVIDIA and some of the other big companies in the Valley. So it's really going to be quite a tremendous event. What we'd like to do is to get this cohort chosen so they can also attend the event in Silicon Valley on the 23rd.
Wow, that's so generous of you. And I hope you guys will be one of those three companies that will be getting this exciting programs this year. Are we good with the timing? Do we have? Are we okay with the timing? Okay. And okay. So I was often encountered by a lot of my startups that I've invested. When it would be a good timing to go global? A lot of it really depends on the industry or type of businesses they have, but sometimes from your presentation, you got to start from the global. You got to have a global mind business set, but those are local company have a strong presence in the domestic market. They want to decide when would be a good timing to put in their resources to global. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a really, really good question. There's so many elements that come to play. The specific space you're in, if you're in deep tech versus B2B, your funding levels, how much funding you have, and the ability to get to your next round of funding. And you certainly know, being in the investment area, what I found in my career is that every investor, whether it's a seed investor, an A investor, B investor, they want to make sure that if they fund you, you have a very clear path to use their capital to get the milestones done to get to that next funding round. Or it can be an exit, it could be whatever. But they want to make sure you're not in that dead man zone in between, right? Where you've kind of proven yourself, you're burning your cash, and you don't have enough of the milestones knocked down to convince a new investor to invest. And I would say that is particularly the case right now. In Silicon Valley, companies the deal in Silicon Valley was, if you want to raise a Series A in B2B SaaS, you have to have $1 million in revenue, some great use cases from customers, and that kind of gets you there. That bar has been lifted quite higher. So in terms of timing to go global, you've got to factor this into how much can you conserve cash to prove your product out, get it developed, get some early use cases, so that then you earn the right to raise that money. Some companies will say, listen, I have to get these other things done. I've got to eye to the global marketplace, but I need funding to get to the global marketplace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all the pieces together, and then I'm going to raise money to go to the global marketplace. But what I'm going to show the investors is I have the solution that's ready to go global. All I need is the capital to do it, because expanding to the U.S. is not inexpensive. Sales resources expensive. Everything's expensive. So you want to make sure that you are in the right position, you've proven enough, you've got the right capital. And from the other programs we're involved in, one of our screening things is to make sure that these companies have enough money in the bank to really give it a go to the U.S. marketplace. If they're up against it, they're trying to raise their next round, probably not the time to turn up your burn rate. And that, as you know, from an investment point of view, once that dollar's out the door, you can't get it back. So in this environment right now, it's really about conserving your capital, focused on those key milestones. And then again, every company's a little different about, when's the time to actually go. But you want to have the mindset from the beginning that says we're going to be a global company. Or maybe you're not going to be a global company and you say, I can have a really nice business in my home market and I'm okay with that. That's okay too, right? It's just you're not going to become a global category leader, which is maybe fine. So it's important to make those decisions in your own mind with your investors, with your team, about what are your aspirations and how do you plan to get there.
Well, like to add on to any points, Susan?
When is the right time to go global? Anytime. Anytime, meaning that, yes, I mean, as Gary mentioned, there's no necessity to go global. It really depends on your mission and your vision of your company. So if you think that it's the kind of problem that you can solve and really help the rest of the world, I would say, why not go global? Why do you have to make yourself small unnecessarily? It's an unnecessary thought that you do not have to, own. You can let that thought go and simply network with a lot of people from different countries, get their opinion, refine your idea rigorously. And I bet you if you refine it enough, it will be global ready. So, yeah.
Susan, you make a great point. It doesn't cost anything to reach out and get these connections, right? To reach out to other geographies, reach out to different groups, learn from others. That doesn't cost anything. To actually pull the trigger and put resources and move to the U.S. and invest, obviously that costs real money. But you can be preparing yourself, understanding what it's going to take, and get really smart and connect with people that have already made the journey and have made the mistakes. Some of the markets in the world, like India, is very interesting because there's a very strong connection between India and the U.S. So many people have moved to the U.S. to take in executive roles or startup roles and move back. So there's a very strong U.S.-India corridor. So that connectedness is there, which is a huge advantage for them, right? In some of the markets here, you don't have as much of that, and that's where programs like ours, provide that connectedness, the connections, and the know-how, to make that journey.
Yeah. Well, especially because you have briefly touched upon the current market trends, especially globally, where we are currently facing downturn of the economy. But I think that's really also important that because of that, a lot of startups really have to face globalization. The domestic market is not enough, and so can you do how long do you think how should founders should really prepare for this economic downturn? I don't know, you said that you have to really be stringent and try to conserve cash, and yeah, let's hear about your thoughts on that.
Yeah. You want to make sure every dollar you spend is so focused and targeted on things that are going to make a difference what you're trying to do. And I can tell you, I've been involved in companies, I've been on the board of companies where they get excited about new technology, they want to create new products, and they just somehow have this ability to just spend money on new things that are nice to have, so they're not critical. And I would say in the downturn, just be very cognizant of the money you're spending and make sure it's going towards those things that are going to move the ball forward. A few years back when people were getting these, huge valuations and big checks, they could do more of that. My first startup, my investor was one of the major Silicon Valley VCs, multi-billion-dollar organization, and they invested in my company to be a global category leader. They said, we'll invest whatever it takes to get there. And I remember one of the senior partners there said to me, if you're going to fail, then fail fast. In other words, don't take time to fail. Go do what you have to do. Take your shot. If it doesn't work, go to another company. We'll fund you again, right? So that's the mindset from the investor perspective because, the more time that goes by, the more other people are coming up with new ideas, the more the market gets penetrated. So there's always the timing of the market, and especially in the AI space right now, things are moving so incredibly fast that there's that balance between being ultra conservative and moving quickly to take some shots, to make some bets, to try to get out there. Because if you do, you're going to get the funding.
Right.
And that's one thing you're an expert in this. Mm-hmm. Great companies will always get funding. Companies that are like this, maybe not as much now, right? Where in the old days they would have gotten funding. Oh. Everybody would have gotten funding, right? But now it's really the companies that have shown the milestones, that shown the proof, that have really put the hard work in to demonstrate that if you write that check, I can take the next step. Right. Those companies are still getting funded.
I think that's where your insights and your experts through your programs really play in a lot of support for the startup because. At this point of time, where we have to really be conservative on spending money, you really have to allocate your limited resources into the right places. So, especially if you gotta really have a mentorship, experts and advisory panels in your company, right? So So, but a lot of startups, right? They don't have to do everything at once, right? What do you suggest for the startups? Which one should they build first? Like, should I go for mentorship? I mean, like advisory panels first, or try to have a thought leadership first?
Well, I think in the case of if you're part of our program, you're going to get all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to deliver all of it to you. If you're doing it alone, I would say the first is get advisors, get experts, get as many people to help you in your journey. You know, go to people that have been successful. If you ask them to be a mentor or to meet an hour a month, they're going to do it. They're going to be honored to do it. So many of the people in our network are extremely successful executives, and they do it because they like to help other companies succeed. Some of them also want to stay current on the latest technologies in their industry. These might be, you know, an executive at General Motors or an executive at a major bank. And, you know, in a large company, sometimes things don't move as fast. And so they want to stay close to what are the latest and greatest technologies. And so for that, they want to engage with startups and scale-ups, and that doesn't cost you anything. Maybe if you want them as an advisory board member, it might cost you a little bit of equity, but give it to them, right? Yeah. Give it to them. The last thing I would say, from all the years I've been doing this, there's so many incredibly smart technical founders, and they build a product they're so proud of, and it's really amazing what they've been able to do with the technology. But when they're trying to sell to the enterprise, because when my role at Visa was buying technology for the company, I was on the other side of the table. Unless you put it in business terms about how you're going to impact that executive's life, how you're going to make their company more productive, profitable, beat their competition, cut costs, whatever it is, unless you can put it in business terms, they don't care about your technology. You know, I used to say that to my team because I didn't come from a technical background. So when I was at Visa, I was more of a general manager in charge of technology. And my favorite phrase was, why do I care? You know, I don't care how fast this thing goes unless you tell me what it's going to do for me, right? So that's one of the major mistakes I see out of brilliant deep tech founders is you've got to tie your technology to the business impact. And if you can do that, you're going to be wildly successful. And that's part of what our panels do. You know, these are your dream customers talking to you about, you should think about positioning it this way, or maybe the messaging should be that way, or this thing that worked in, in Seoul won't equate as much in the U.S. because of whatever reason. They're going to help you fine-tune that business value, and that's so important.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wanted to add on that is, I was talking with a really influential investor, and what he was saying is that focus on growing your revenue, as you know, this is very much tied to what Gary is talking about, is that if you have customers, if you can show that you have a revenue, investors, they will come find you. You don't have to go out and seek them because they know that, you know, you are worthwhile to invest in. So always, because when you have customers, that means that what you offer has a value that other people, attach to it. So that's a, validation from the market itself. So that should always be the first, most priority number one focus at all times. It's not about your technology. It's about the solution that you are offering for people that need it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I really do agree with your point on the investment side, because a lot of Korean venture capitalists too are now seeking companies that are global ready, and by that we gotta have to see how much they are connected directly to the global community. If they might have a good product market fit on global, but if they don't have any global like advisory panel or advisory board, or like if they don't have enough partnerships to prove themselves that they are connected to global, it's very difficult for us to make an investment decision. So that's something that a lot of startups have to have in mind, that you gotta have as many as mentors and advisors in your global, if you want to go global. And So I'd like to open up for questions, but yeah, okay. So let me know. Oh yeah, there we go. Let me know.
First of all, thank you very much for sharing your valuable insights. My name is Yuho. I'm a PhD student. Our team is developing medical AI that detects Alzheimer's disease very earlier than the current state-of-the-art diagnostic technology can. Due to the nature of our team's project, we are hoping that later on we would complete the technology, and our exit strategy would be to sell our product to more bigger and more globalized pharmaceutical company, so they can utilize our product and apply this to a broader healthcare market. And because our team is a pioneer in this area, we do not have any predecessors who have gone this path before, and we don't really have the methods to actually put the impact of our research in dollar terms, right? So any economic analysis that we might do to us seem like best hopeful estimates rather than actual economic impacts that our product may be. So how do I make those estimates sound more convincing to the potential investors? And how do you make our estimates more accurate if there are no predecessors in the industry?
Yeah, I think I heard, sorry, there's some background noise. I'm not sure I heard the whole question, but you've got deep technology that's going to change the marketplace. You don't necessarily have go-to-market and revenue yet. Is that correct? Okay. This is a little different, right? Where you have large companies. So you also even talked about your exit strategy, which is really smart. One thing is I'm going to go to the market by myself. I'm going to build my own team. I'm going to go out there as an independent organization. Another one is I'm going to take this breakthrough technology I've got and find the right buyer or partner or channel. And what's going to happen is they're going to then take it to their customers. You don't have to create those customer relationships. They've already got them. So it's a matter of finding your way to get your ideas and technologies and proof points into those companies. It's a little bit different, but it is something that we do. So for example, in our case, we have a panel of chief medical officers from the largest healthcare systems in the world, right? And they've got research teams, and they're looking for technology all the time. It would be very hard for you to go on your own as a business, but there may be opportunities where they could, it's kind of a build versus buy scenario, right? They're looking for components to package together for a solution they can then ultimately take to their customers or put in their system. That's as much as I caught of the question. I'm not sure I answered your question, but
It's not here. Can't hear you.
So we do have the impenetrable technological moat because the data we are using to train our model is not very easily approachable by even the bigger companies because it takes time to develop those databases because it's human brain MRI and takes a long time to acquire them. So I think we do have significant research results, but I was wondering how we can translate the significant research results, like hypothetical economical results, into hard numbers, like dollar terms, and how do I make it more convincing to our team and the potential investors?
Yeah, again, I think I caught most of that. So ultimately, you've got to make that transition between the core technology you have and profitability. And in your industry, I've got a very good friend who's a CFO. He's done many medical device, some IPOs, some exits, some complete failures. And in the failures, it was because the technology worked, but they couldn't attach it to a way for their customers to make money. Like they couldn't get a charging code. One of his latest companies was a AI-based intelligent catheter that was constantly measuring what's happening right in your in the kidneys, you know. So and everybody loved it, but they couldn't find a way to monetize it because there was no charge codes. So if they put it in the hospital, right, they couldn't get reimbursed for it, and that company is struggling now, even though it's an amazing technology. Maybe it's something we could take offline and talk about how we could help you there. There are ways to build those economic models so you can show them, you know, how it's going to make a difference. And the investor class is very different in that space, right? A lot of these depends on the technology. Sometimes takes a lot more money. It's very risky, but the rewards are extremely high in a very short period of time, right? So maybe afterwards we can exchange information and connect.
That's great. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to add a bit is that we do have a number of biotech or medtech company in Tokyo cohort. So what we do is that this is where the mentors that we pair with you can come in and help you together to figure out what is that, like how do you connect, as Gary mentioned, your research into the market needs. So that is the kind of support as a program we are actually offering as well we usually support companies who are post-Series A, I would say, but if it's the case where it needs a little bit more support on that end, that is something that we're offering too. Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
I was just going to say, keep in mind, every big company started as a small company. Okay, so even in our trip, I just got back from this trip to India. We met some amazing companies that probably aren't ready for our program yet, but they might be next year. So that's a great thing too, right? So it's, understand that path to go global, including the help you need, right? So again, we'd love to talk offline.
All right, thank you.
And I cover a medtech investment at Bluepoint here, so I'll be happy to give you more advice if you like to talk about your company later.
And that'd be amazing.
Yeah, and just to add on to how you convert your research into economic value, I think within medical AI sector, it's really all about how you prove efficacy and safety. And so, I think you know a lot more about that. So I'll be looking forward to talk to you later. And
I was just going to say, you're a great example of what we're talking about. You raised your hand, you asked the question, you just got connected to somebody who knows about this, right? That's what it's all about. Do that every single day. Ask questions, ask for information. How can you help me? That's what's going to get you to great success. So thanks for the example.
Glad I came here.
Any more questions you'd like to add on to or be connected? Okay. I think we should really go to the last question maybe. How much time do we have? I think the clock says it's still have 10 minutes. Do you know? Should I just keep going without considering any time? Okay. 10 minutes? Okay. Thank you. Oh yeah. Well, it's guess. So what about? I want to also talk about the funding strategies. I think it's quite different. As far as I experience, it's how to pitch to investors. What aspects they have to really highlight on that. So. Currently, what do you think the most important thing when you go to the investors, and what are the aspects that they think is most important aspects when they hear about pitching ideas of the startups?
Yeah, one topic we already covered, which is, and you do this, they're investing in people. Some of the most prolific investors in Silicon Valley will say, we invest in this portfolio, these companies we didn't think were going to make it, and they're the ones that made it the biggest, right? And a lot of times it's because of the person, the founder, the team, they just didn't give up, and they actually, got to that point where they're successful. So, number one, I think it's investing, putting it out there, right? Showing how passionate you are, why you're starting the company, what you're doing with the company. The second, I would say, especially in this environment, be really crisp and realistic about the things you want to get done to get to that next milestone. If someone comes in and shows me a chart, and you would know this, that's up and to the right, when they're just starting their company, it's a joke, right? So if you're realistic about things you can accomplish and explain to them how you're going to accomplish those things, that goes a long way, from a funding. Now, it also depends on the stage you're at. That's more in the early stages. when you get to Series A and B, it's about global expansion. It's about showing them there's a market and you have a plan to get there. And it's a really pretty clear line of sight to getting there. And what you need is you just need funding. So in other words, I've got all the pieces together ready to go. The piece I need left next is funding. With that funding, I can make this happen, right? So they're doing their part by writing that check to give you the fuel in the tank to get there. So as crisp and clear as you can be about those key milestones and your plans to hit the milestones and realistic goals, especially in this market, right? I really like the question, realistic goals, because companies are also pulling back in some cases. You know, they may not be spending as much as they used to, so you've got to factor all into your estimates and how much time it'll take you to get to where you want to be.
So just to add on top of that, so this I'm drawing from one of the expert sessions that I recently did with this, the investor who is part of the $2 billion fund, and what he does right now is that he coaches startups to, refine their pitch line and also how to, pitch to the investors. And part of the core message that he had there was that if you think about it, investors talk to startups all the time. They are, surrounded with ideas. So it needs to be clear what is your unique proposition. What's the unique value that you're offering that really nobody else can offer? It has to be able to stand out. So Gary talked about crisp. I think that's the kind of crisp that you really have to nail down and make it clear for them and attach some value to it. So that's, I'm sure, so it's not just that, oh, I'm so passionate about this problem that I'm trying to solve. That's not going to be enough. So, really thinking that through will be very important. And then in addition, adding that personal character sparkle on top will get you the cherry. So
a lot of startups when they join your program, you guys are teaching the startups how to be crisp, how to be concise and be realistic of their goals, right? And there will be a great support and very, very exciting with that. And but I think you have experiences from like Japanese startups that even if you teach them how to be crisp and be concise, we're experiencing language barrier. Do you have any stories or examples how they overcome language barriers when they approach global partners?
So our cohort is going through it as we speak, but what I can do is I can offer suggestions based on my own experience, because I grew up with Chinese and Korean. I went to Japan when I was 10, and then I studied in the U.S., and then I come back and started working in Japan. So I moved somewhere new long term for the first time 3 times in my life. So, in the course of that, what I learned is that always there's something new that can be learned. The reality that I was part of does not have to define who I am. Telling myself that the language, the gesture, the cultural background, everything can be learned. You can put what you know on the side a little bit, and then after you master the new one, and then you can marinate it together and then grow as a person. So I think that global expansion is something similar. I think that, obviously the Japanese cohort are going to go through the same thing, because a lot of them are going to, move to the target country that they're going to. So that's part of the process that they're going to have to do. So, stay flexible, be open to reinvent yourself every day. I think that's extremely important.
Great. I just got a sign that we got to wrap up. So for the final words, would you like to give advice or words of encouragement to the startups, please?
Well, thank you, by the way, this has been great. Thanks for great questions, and thanks for being a great audience. It's pretty evident to me when you see where Seoul is moving up the ranks, just being here since Saturday and engaging with a lot of people, the culture, the excitement, the investments that are happening, the programs that are happening. You know, I think this this ecosystem's got an incredibly bright future. So as we said, you know, of the title, my pitch was getting to the top 5. I think this program's going to be in the top 5 in a short period of time. So we have a chance to work with some of you and your companies. We'd obviously love that, get to know you more.
Thank you. Okay, please.
So my message of encouragement, you know, I get a little passionate because I also have my Korean roots, right? So please excuse me, but I think that, you know, what I really appreciate about the Korean cultural characteristic is that people are extremely hardworking. How do you say? I think, you know, even if you look at the K-pop emergence of the current state of the, you know, globe, is that because K-pop used to not be well known. I know that K-pop, you know, back in the 80s and the 90s, but, you know, look at it now. So I think it's not because these people are naturally talented, because they're really honing their skill and really you know, refine their art. So I think, you know, startup world is the same thing, and I do think that, like, Korean founders have that element where they really know how to work hard, but do not work hard, you know, blindly. But, you know, you have that skill set. You're just really amazing talent. So, and I'm here to support you as your friend, you know, as your guide, whatever it is that you need. So, yeah, come talk to us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for sharing your insights and your passion today. And thank you all for joining our passion today. And let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the insightful comments and advices. Thank you once again. You may now all return to your seat. Thank you very much.